Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the For the Love podcast. This is fun. Today we're road tripping. If you're new around here, Road Trippin' with Jen is where we take the show out of the studio and onto the road. So that's into theaters and bookshops, churches, rooms full of actual human people. And we invite you into the conversations happening live in real time. It's so fun. So fun. So today's episode was recorded on the Awake Book Tour. What a whirlwind. And you're going to love this one. This was one of our best stops on the tour, bar none. It was so surprisingly funny. And she and I got into doing bits and just kept circling back around the bits we were doing. I mean, we were roaring with laughter. This was a really fun night and made better because I was joined on stage by someone who's kind of all of our favorite. Certainly one of my favorite humans and thinkers, and it's, of course, Sharon McMahon. We're big fans of Sharon around here, and I know you are too. As you know, Sharon is known as America's government teacher. She is the voice and force behind Sharon Says So. I mean, she is just a phenomenal powerhouse in this world, a voice that I respect and I'm proud of and I listen to and learn from right now, in addition to being my friend. So she and I engage in a pretty wide-ranging conversation about what it's like to wake up in midlife. It is honest, it's funny, it is tender. For us, it's grounded in lived experience, as it is for you too. So this discussion, it holds grief, it holds hope. I think it reflects a lot of what you have been walking right alongside me. You'll resonate with virtually everything we discuss. I'm really glad you're here for this one. Everyone who showed up with Sharon and I in Phoenix was really glad to be there. It was a sold out show, a big room full of amazing women, and I will not forget it. And I'm so glad that I get to bring it to you. So let's hit the road. Lucky me and lucky you, because I am so delighted that my friend is here tonight with me and with all of us. We have Sharon McMahon with us tonight, you guys. Yeah. You know her as America's government teacher, of course. She is the voice behind Sharon Says So. She is a former high school government and law teacher. She has built this amazing, remarkable community by making complicated issues clear and accessible, and I say fun. I love so many things about Sharon, but namely, she brings truth with kindness, with respect, with dignity. She has shown us that it is still possible to bridge divides, to build trust in a fractured world, and to do the right thing. She's a great leader. She is wise, she is generous, she is very funny. She is a force for good. We are lucky to have her. So y'all help me welcome Sharon McMahon.
Hello. Hey, everyone. Thanks for having me. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh my gosh, come on.
I
Get serious.
have to tell you, I was on the plane yesterday, and so first of all, this is me on the plane because I want everybody walking past me to see exactly what I'm reading. And for quite a while, I didn't even turn any pages because this is kind of awkward. I was mostly just holding it so everybody walking past would see exactly what this book was. But I will tell you, there was a point where the person who was sitting next to me was listening to something on her headphones, and I burst out laughing on the airplane to the point where she took out her AirPod to be like, what's happening over here? And there was, I'm going to read to you the part that I think is really funny. So this is where you go to Bar Harbor.
Yes.
And you say, I make it to Bar Harbor. It snares me in its charming sorcery. And all of a sudden, I'm a person saying yes to almost everything. Whatever I thought this would be multiplies by 1,000. And on the fourth day, I pull his card out and text. So she's talking about a man that she met. And she decides to text him. And she says, hey, it's Jen from the illustrious by the way, they don't say Bangor. Bangor. Did you know that it's Bangor, Maine? No. Don't try to say Bangor, Maine. No. It's Jen from the illustrious Bangor Airport, driver of a rented Camry, while you got the fun Jeep.
We bantered in line, if that is not obvious.
Okay, but here's the funny part. I then proceed to absolutely panic. I Google, what are men right now? How are the men? Who is out there? How do you date a man? What do men in their 40s do? These are all excellent questions, by the way. These are all absolutely legitimate questions. What are dates now? What are dating rules? What are you supposed to wear? What do they wear? Do I pay? Who pays? Are there code words?
I mean, in my defense, I had not been on a date with a new person since 1992.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
I don't know about it. And all my friends have been married for zillions of years. They know nothing. They're so ignorant about the world.
What are men right now?
What are men right now? Just what are they? Like, what are the men?
How are the men?
How are the men? Are they okay? Like,
yeah.
Have the men been to therapy? Like, I don't know, you know? And I don't think they have been, to be honest.
What do men do?
Right.
What do men in their 40s do? Mostly things you don't want to know.
I think you're right.
Frankly.
I think you're so right.
But it just made me laugh that what you Googled was, how are the men?
How are the men? Internet, how are the men? Oh boy, shenanigans.
Absolutely, I love it. Okay, so both of our grandmothers were from Kansas.
Oh, I love this.
And I thought I would share with you a couple of things I learned from my Kansas grandma.
Can you tell me what city she was from?
She was from Kansas City.
Oh, the best.
And I'll tell you a very quick funny story, which is maybe you guys have noticed that I am rather tall. Yeah. Okay? I'm taller in person than I am on the internet, which is weird. I come from a very long line of tall people, okay? My mom is 5'11", my dad was 6'3", my grandma was 5'10", my grandpa was 6'4", and my grandparents were from Kansas City. Okay. And in the 1930s, they met at a club for tall people.
That's not true.
It was called the KC Skyliners.
I'm obsessed.
And last year when I was on my book tour, I spoke in Kansas City, and it was sponsored by a library. And I had mentioned to the librarians as we were planning this event that my grandparents, I didn't even remember the name of the club that they were in, but I just said, in the 30s, they met at this club for tall people. And the librarians came in clutch, dug through all the archives, found the newspaper articles about this KC Skyliners, printed them out for me, laminated them, as any librarian would do, right? Laminated the KC Skyliners pictures. You know, like they would have advertisements about the bowling activities and the things they were doing. So my grandma snuck in. You were supposed to be 6 feet tall as a woman to be a member of the KC Skyliners, but she was only 5'10", so she wore heels.
This is such a good story. It's raising so many
is
questions
about
for me.
This is about me. So thanks for letting me hijack your book tour.
No.
I'm here to tell all my stories. Okay, so that's my tee up. I want to tell you a couple of things I learned from my grandma from Kansas, and
Let's
then
hear
I
it.
want to hear all the things that your grandma taught you. The first thing my grandma taught me was never marry the first man who comes along.
That was good advice.
Right?
You guys.
Right?
I went to a Baptist college and married the first youth pastor that walked past me. Like, that was good advice.
She really hammered that home. I'm like 10 years old, and she's like, Sharon,
Yes.
never marry the first guy that comes along. The next thing she told me is that when women get older, they have to choose between their figure and their face. You can't have both.
Whoa.
And I kind of think that's true.
Oh my gosh.
Right? Like, I mean, if you think about just the mechanics of what we're talking about here, like you either get to have like a smooth, lovely face and be a little on the heavier side as you head into your older age, or you can be really slim and wrinkled.
Oh, okay.
I mean, this is before Botox, right?
Yeah.
But I still, like, she probably also wasn't wrong.
I'm going to think on that.
Yeah, think about that. Okay?
I'm going to think about that as I choose my path.
Yeah. Pick one.
Yeah.
Choose your character.
Yeah. Yeah. You guys take that home.
Yeah.
Like, these are the things that we want you to walk away
Never
with
marry
tonight.
the first guy that
really
comes along.
is. Yeah, it really is.
Yep.
Grandmothers are full of wisdom, right?
Yep.
My grandmother, what I kind of remember the most is that I remember her most in the kitchen. And so her wisdom that has now rolled downhill all the way through her kids and their kids and our kids is just simply, you cannot, it is not possible in any given recipe to have too much salt or too much butter.
Never too much butter.
Ever.
That's absolutely correct.
Ever. Like, our palates are so blown out because I'm one of those salt the food before I taste in any given restaurant. And I don't know, I think this is completely unrelated. I do have high blood pressure. Yeah.
So did my grandma.
It's from
Yeah,
stress.
of course.
It's not from that.
My grandma would make us popcorn, in one of those little things on the stove. Of course, it's being made with oil, right?
Sure.
But then you'd pour it into the bowl that you're going to eat the popcorn out of. And if you had less than 2 sticks of butter on that one bowl of popcorn, then it had a hwang. This popcorn has a hwang.
Oh. Oh, listen, we've really lost a step since their generation. You know what I mean? I hate it here. Like, I do. When whatever it was, maybe 15 years ago, do you remember when they started marketing to us the like butter spray to spray on our popcorn?
I can't believe it's not butter spray.
I lost the will to live. I'm like, I don't want this. I don't want this for the future.
No.
I don't want this for my children. We do popcorn in a brown paper bag still with melted butter and shake. And if it's not a little soggy, there's not enough butter.
It needs to be a little soggy.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, forget, what is this popcorn is crunchy bananas? That's not
I don't know.
true.
I don't
No,
know. That's not what
true.
we're doing here.
No.
One other quick thing my grandma said one time, and this was really notable because my grandmother was of the era, probably yours too. Well, not necessarily. That's not true. I'm projecting. My grandparents didn't say curse words. They were very, very proper, very formal. And I remember one time being at my grandma's house, and my grandpa and my dad had just they were just frothing at the mouth over something that they were explaining to us that we already knew. They were mansplaining. And the two of them are tag teaming, and they walk out the door, and I just remember, I had to have been 12. And my grandma just looks at me, just very calm, very plain, and she's just like, sometimes men are damn fools. I'll never forget it.
What are men?
What are the men?
What are
my
the
grandma
men?
Already told me. She told me when I was
Quite
12.
literally.
Where's the lie?
Mm-hmm. Have you thought about this yet? I would imagine you haven't, because your grandson is so new that someday he's going to be sitting on a stage talking about you. And so you are going to need to infuse this child's life with some wackadoodle stuff so that he has good stories.
God, that is so
You owe him
true.
this service. You cannot be some like, Grandma loves you, I knit you this stocking. No.
You're right. I need like some quirky catchphrases, some really unhinged habits.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
You need to start putting
I
2
see what you're
sticks of
saying.
butter on everything.
Oh my God, this is the first time I've had this thought, and now it's all I can think of. Thank you for that advice.
My grandma also believed that she would ask you before you went to bed, are you hungry? And what is the correct answer to that question when you're a child? Yes, of course, yes.
Yeah.
And my grandma could not handle the thought that one of her grandchildren would go to bed hungry. And so the amount of food that she would make you immediately before bed, after you've already had dinner, it was a minimum of 4 pieces of English muffin toast.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, and of which you probably used close to an entire stick of butter.
Sure.
And then you might as well have a Klondike bar.
Well, yeah.
Right? That is bedtime snack. So start thinking about like what are your signature bedtime snacks going to be? Because he's going to remember those.
Yeah.
It needs to be at least 1,000 calories.
I see.
That's how you sleep through the night.
Your grandmother picked face.
That's correct.
Of the 2.
That's correct.
Yes.
Yes, she did.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Okay.
Nailed it.
Okay. Love a callback. Do you mind if I just ask you a couple of questions
Please
before
do.
we get into some of this stuff? Because a lot of you are just like me and looking to you a lot right now for leadership. And I don't mean that to sound so daunting, but also we're trying to take the temperature of the room every day, and it's hot. And it's hard to know how to respond. It's hard to even know how to sift through the information. It's just a tsunami of information. And so one of the cornerstones of your work has always been to prioritize truth. That's sort of how you set out. The tip of the spear was, I'm not necessarily going to be in a partisan space. I'm gonna follow what is truthful, what is historical, what is accurate, what is factual, and that feels like it's a little bit up for grabs right now. And so I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about where you locate the importance of telling the truth, reading the truth, assessing the truth, discerning the truth at this particular moment in time. I don't know if that's a question makes sense.
It does. It makes sense. It's also, that's a tough question. That's not like I could write a whole book on that topic, right? One of the things that I keep thinking about is how when the truth becomes obscured, when there is a concerted effort to obscure the truth, that it's always important to look what's behind that. Like what is behind the curtain? What is the motivation of saying things like, slavery wasn't that bad, or whatever it might be, fill in the blank with whatever crazy thing we're thinking about today. What is the motivation for doing that? And that's what history teaches us, right? Is we can look at patterns of human behavior over the course of time and space and understand that humans they're actually only motivated by a certain small set of things. A lust for power is one of them. Self-aggrandizement, money, and also love, right? And at a time when it feels especially fraught. It truly does. I would imagine a lot of you relate to this. You open your, social media app in the morning and it feels like there is a proverbial wolf at the door. Like that's just the best way I can describe it. And every day it seems like the wolf gets a little closer to getting into your house. And that is not a comfortable state to live in. That is not a comfortable way to live your life. And so it generates a tremendous amount of fear in people. Do you guys feel that? Do you feel like scared a lot of the time? Yes. So I'm not going to blow smoke up anybody's ass and pretend that there is, nothing to fear but fear itself. But what I can tell you is that there have been people who have come before us who have lived through so much, who have left their lanterns on the path. I think about somebody like Harriet Tubman, for example, who we all would regard as a hero today, right? She saves many dozens of people from enslavement. She rescues 500 people during the Civil War. She's a Civil War spy. The list goes on. Zero of Harriet Tubman's external circumstances were going right. Zero. She was an enslaved woman who had no access to literacy. She was a disabled American. When she was a child, somebody threw a heavy weight at her head, and she lived with a traumatic brain injury for the rest of her life. Today, we would know that she has epilepsy. But one of the things that I keep thinking about when it comes to people like Harriet Tubman, she believed that God needed her as much as she needed him, and that he needed her to do his work. And I think about that, like, what an incredible way to look at the world. Like, I have an important job to do, and God needs me to do it. And that is not contingent on any of my external circumstances. So that I keep holding on to people like her, of like, listen, we're going to make it. If she made it, we can make it. So that's the best answer I have on a...
No, it's a good answer. It's a great
whatever
answer.
Day of the week it is, Tuesday.
Yeah, it's a good answer. I love every time you direct us to look back at history, because for so many of us, this is the most tumultuous moment we've known in our lifetime. But when you go, hey, let's head back 5 generations, 8 generations, 10 generations, we're not the first set of Americans to worry about the state of the union, right? And to be going through a lot of turmoil and upheaval. And that, weirdly, it's comforting.
I think it is.
Yeah.
And I think one of the other things I'll say, and then I'll be done talking about this, which is that the world is not made better because we all sit in a paralyzed state of anxiety and fear. It feels like when we know about I have all of this knowledge, and I am so afraid of all of these things that are happening, and I feel terrible for this group and what's happening here and what's happening there. I feel terrible about it. And so I think that we tend to carry this sort of guilt or this weight of like, I can't possibly enjoy my life because of everything that is happening in the world. Some people don't have food to eat tonight. And I want to encourage you to remember that you actually are not helping anybody by being paralyzed in a state of fear and joylessness and overwhelm.
That's good.
And that's not to say that we turn a blind eye and we're callous towards the plight of others, or it's not to say we don't inform ourselves, but you do not owe the world a state of paralyzation and fear. You're actually not helping anybody by not enjoying your grandson. You would actually be doing the future a disservice by not finding joy in today. And at every age in human history, when people have lived under tyrannical dictators in ancient Rome, people have found ways to endure, and that always included finding joy in any way that they could.
That's why we listen to you.
I have a few questions for you, though, because you wrote this fantastic book. My mom is a big fan of yours, Jen.
That's really...
Does anyone have a mom that's a big fan of Jen's? Yes, my mom has been a big fan of yours for a very long time, and I can tell that it really tickles her that I am here this evening.
That's cute.
It really does. I'm from Minnesota.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
And when I was a little girl, my mom married a man that she had met only one time.
That's right.
Who was from Minnesota.
Yeah.
And that is how I ended up there.
Yeah.
And that is how I got this accent.
Yeah.
So earlier today, my mom is texting me. My mom, by the way, is on her third husband.
Okay.
Her first husband abandoned her.
That's right.
her second husband died, and then she met her third husband in a grief group for seniors.
It's never too late.
It's never too late. His wife died, her husband died. They are on their 6th anniversary getaway this weekend.
Well, that is precious.
Isn't that cute?
We love this for her.
Yeah. So they're in a little cabin in the woods up the Gunflint Trail.
I know it.
Yes, yep. But she only has Wi-Fi inside the main lodge. Okay, because that's how Minnesota is.
Yeah.
I don't have broadband at my house.
Oh.
Okay? Nor do I have any utilities.
Sure.
Right? I have like a well. So my mom is texting me. She goes to the main lodge today to say, I have some questions for Jen.
That's so cute.
So I'm going to ask you a few of the questions that my mom
love
said.
this. What's your mom's first name?
My mom's name is Julie.
Julie, okay.
Okay. She sent a long list, so I may not get to all of them. Okay. The first one is, I would like to know Jen's 3 favorite books and or authors.
Oh. Wow, let me get in that headspace. One thing that you should know is that if you should ever decide to become a writer and then do interviews as a writer, that when you get this question and you're not ready for it, it will be as if you have never read a book in your whole life.
That is correct.
Like you've never even held a book.
And any answer you give will be, you will later believe is the wrong answer.
That's right. You pull out a book that you read like last week that was very mid, but it's the only thing that you can think of.
Yes.
But this I can tell you. My favorite book, if I had to pick, and this is so hard, it's such a mean question, but probably my favorite book of all time coincides with my favorite writer of all time, which is David Sedaris.
I love David Sedaris.
Me Talk Pretty One Day is a masterpiece.
Yes.
It is a satirical masterpiece.
Him.
Nobody can do that like him.
No.
Nobody. He is an unmatched genius of satire, and I am obsessed with him. I've read every word he's ever written. My second favorite author for whom I just would lay down on train tracks for, and I would sell off my whole library if I could keep her books, is Anne Lamott.
Love her. Love her.
Her books have meant so much to me over the years. So much to me. I've gotten to know her absurdly now in my life, and she tells me, I have her cell phone number, Sharon.
Stop it.
I have her cell number, and she told me that I can only call her Annie because that's what her friends call her. My heart has exploded. And then I would say this, and I say this to her all the time, one of my favorite books of all time is The Middle Place by Kelly Corrigan. It's one of the best memoirs, and if you have not read it, race to get that book. I've read it a dozen times.
Those are good answers. I like those answers. My favorite bit that David Sedaris does is the bit called Jesus Shaves.
Oh, it's so funny.
Jesus Shaves.
Yeah.
The gist is very quickly that he's learning to speak French while he's living in France. And the teacher is insisting that they all speak in French, and they're talking about Easter. And nobody can has the vocabulary to say things like resurrection.
That's right.
And he's trying to say it in French, and he ends up saying things like, he died one day on 2 morsels of lumber.
Yes. That is in Me Talk Pretty One Day.
Yes.
That's the title essay. And when I tell you, I read that, unfortunately, on a plane. I was hysterical.
Never get tired of that.
Never. I had to put it away. So I could not keep reading it because I was causing such a commotion in my aisle, and I had to use my neighbor's cocktail napkin to I was crying with laughter, and I'm like, I cannot read it. I won't do it. They're going to kick me off this flight. And I put it down, and even just as I kept thinking about Jesus Shaves, I would start laughing again. I was just hysterical. Anyway, Me Talk Pretty One Day. The best.
I love it.
Jesus
okay,
Shaves.
the next question Julie wants to know.
Sure.
Is she noticed, and so did I, and if you've read the book, you'll notice this as well, that one of the themes is about female friendship. And you have a very, very dear group of friends that really have carried you through these hard times. What have you learned, or what kind of wisdom would you have for somebody who, maybe is a 45-year-old woman who doesn't have 15 really close girlfriends? What advice would you give to somebody asking for a friend?
Yeah. I'm sure they want to know. Awake is actually dedicated to the people in my life who love me and my friends and my family. And one of my early readers said, it reads like a love letter to your friends. And the only reason that it reads like a love letter is because they wrote all of those little chapters into this story. My friends and my family, I'm from a big family too. I'm the oldest of 4. And my parents and all my siblings and all their families live in Austin where I live. So, and then I have 5 kids. We just don't do anything small. It's all bigger in Texas. And so I have this kind of big crew. And when my life shredded apart, and just to locate it in time, I lost my marriage in July of 2020. So it was just a really good year.
2020 was fantastic.
It's just a fantastic year.
Totally wish to repeat all of that.
Absolutely. They loved me so completely and so past the expiration date of somebody else's suffering. Do you know what I mean by that? Like most of us can come in for that first wave. When it goes down in flames and you're like, I'm going to come in with some bread, whatever it is.
As we'd say in Minnesota, I dropped a hot dish off for you.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
But by the 8th wave, you're just such a bummer. Mm-hmm. And my friends stayed and my family stayed. And I have no imagination for what this story would have been like without them. I can't even think of it. I can't imagine what I would have done had my sisters not slept in bed with me, one on either side. I cannot imagine what I would have done without my friends, circling and hovering around me and making me eat snacks all the time. That was their labor of love. Have you had a snack? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so I know that the conversation around friendship is a fraught one. I know this because you're in my community, and this is a conversation we have all the time, that friendship can be, at our age, the most divine blessing. I mean, in my opinion, a good group of girlfriends is worth 10,000 husbands.
Because what are the men?
What are the men,
Truly. What are the men?
Yes. They're damn fools, like my grandma said. But I also know that this can be a really lonely season. It's a weird time to have a lot of disruption. So for a lot of people who have moved or they've transitioned, even as our kids are growing up and launching, and that's changing our dynamic and sometimes our relationships. When we had friends that were sort of kid connected, or we're retiring. A lot of things in our lives are shifting, which means our friendships are too, and it can feel really, really lonely. And I think I would just say this: I don't have a magic formula for materializing a friend group, but I will say you do not have to have 15. That is not a requirement. That is not a goalpost that you have to get to have a meaningful, connected, relational life here in the middle. I promise, if you have one, that's enough. One friend can love you back to life. One friend can see you through, and you can do the same. And so this is not a revelatory thing to say, but if you've got a friend that fits that bill or could fit that bill or is close to fitting that bill, rather than waiting for that person to extend every sort of hand to you to build the sort of relationship you are hoping for, be the builder, be the initiator. You will waste no minutes investing in a deep, committed friendship at this stage of life. The very worst thing that could happen, the worst thing, is that you invest for a little while into someone and it's a false start. That's the worst thing, right? That you got a dud. I mean that nicely. You got a lemon, okay? Okay, like...
You can still learn something from a lemon.
You can, you can. And I would say make haste on putting energy toward that building process right now, because I am sitting in front of you as someone who has always I've probably overvalued my friendships. But I'm so grateful for all that time spent, because whatever you have built in the good cheer of the daylight is what will be there for you in your dark night of the soul. And at that point, it is really hard to build. You can't see an inch in front of your face. And so right now, if you are in this cheerful season of life, this is the time. Invest, invest, invest. Love, love, love. Bring the hot dish. Be the good friend. Be the good friend. And when your dark night comes, and it will, you know that it will. If it hasn't already, just live longer, you know? It'll come. Whatever you have will show up for you, and one is enough. One is enough.
That's such good advice to build in the quiet seasons of your life, because it's very hard to, when you're drowning, to be like, I really need a new best friend.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Can we go to lunch? It's like dating.
Yeah.
Like you need the time for it. Like, do you like me as much as I like you? Right. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the last question from my mom.
Okay, Julie, what does she have for
my
me?
My mom is the opposite of you, because you talked about how your husband always just bought you a car and a car showed up.
Yes.
And you had to relearn, you had to learn for the first time how to do everything. Like, how do I get a mortgage? How do I buy a car? And I loved when you were like, you were Googling, what are the cars?
Yes.
What cars are available? What cars exist?
What cars exist?
What cars exist? My mom is the kind of person who knows every hubcap on every car. She can be like, that is a 1972 Chevy Impala, but it has Dodge hubcaps on it. It's a weird, I'm sure she's perfectly neurotypical. That is a weird thing. And I remember asking her that when I was a child. I was like, how do you know about hubcaps? Yeah. And she was like, to me, it's like the sky is blue, the trees are green, and those are Chevy hubcaps.
Okay. Well,
that's literally.
Good job, Julie.
Yeah, very smart. The question, that's neither here nor there.
Sure.
I just thought that was funny. What cars are available?
Yeah.
She wants to know about your writing process. And I bet a lot of people here are curious about that too. Are you I get up every morning at 6 a.m. and I write for 90 minutes. Like, what is the process for how a book like this gets out into the world?
I wrote this one a little differently than I have written previous books. I wrote easily half of it before I had a contract for it, because I knew that getting this story on the page with integrity, I could not have a looming deadline over my head so that I was rushing it, worrying about how much time I had left. Because normally I start writing when I already have a finish line on the calendar. And so that I normally do, in every book I've ever written, I do what I call book math, which is I count up how many, I think I might not be neurotypical either. How many work days do I have on the calendar between the day that I start and the day that it is due, taking into account weekends and trips and holidays? And how many words a day do I have to write to hit my target by the end? Is that
does not
it
seem
sounds
weird.
Very.
That's literally what I do.
You do?
Yes.
Okay. So it's not that I
mean, maybe we're both weird.
I think
That
maybe
could
we
also.
are.
It's an alternative third explanation.
You're right. That is very rigid, and plenty. I interview novelists all the time for book club, and their writing process is so much more beautiful than that. it's artistic and it's lyrical and it's like, I sit under my tree and I convene
I light
with
my candle and I drink the tea.
and the words just flow. And I'm like, oh, I have a word count like 3,212, and I put it next to mine is so much more analytical. So that's normally how I write, very paced. And that is when I have a pretty clear outline. I know where I'm going. I've got my research in hand. And so I can kind of just chunk it out like that. This is so different. And I have never written like this before. I've never written in vignettes. First of all, I don't think there's a single entry in the entire book that's longer than 4 pages. They're all just short, and they're located in time and memory. And so I spent a lot of time on this particular one. During this writing process, I had 2 tabs that were never closed on my laptop. One was Facebook and one was Instagram from 2020. And I scrolled back to remember, what did I say? What did I feel? What did you say to me? What did my community suggest? What was I going through? How was I feeling? Because I'm not glossing over this with a wide paintbrush. It's granular, every little thing. And so those functioned to me as a diary. And I want to go back to something I said to you when I first came out, which is that, again, you really did make this book possible because you demonstrated immediately, the day that I told you, such safety for me that you were going to hold this story so tenderly and that you were going to love us and there was no shame. And I didn't give you any details. I did not say until this book came out that my husband had an affair. I told you nothing. And I know you were nosy and wanted to know. I know you did. But nobody pushed and nobody pulled. Instead, it was so much love. And so I knew because of that, that I could safely write all that stuff back in 2020. All that stuff in 2021, I could put that on social media, and I knew that you would be careful with it. And so thank you for that, because that turned into lots of content in this book, lots of things that I remembered. And then I also went through, did anybody by chance listen to this on audio? Okay.
My mom did.
She did?
Mm-hmm. She wanted me to tell you that she really liked listening to your dad read his parts. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I went back through texts, emails, letters, everything that my friends and family had sent to me, written to me, said to me, as again, another layer of record, and verbatim put into this book what they said to me. And in the audiobook, I made my audio engineer's life, I think, a living hell when I came to her and said, I have a vision for the audiobook, and I'm curious if you would allow 15 people to read their portion. So every time somebody said something to me, it's their voice reading it in the audiobook. And there is one where my dad reads a long text that he sent me, and I just am telling you, don't listen to it in public. It is so precious and so dear and so tender. In fact, he recorded it at my house. And I read it literally off his text. I changed not a word. And he cried when he recorded it. And he's like, hun, should we redo it? Because I cried. I'm like, Dad, that's the take. Trust me, my audience is women. They are going to respond to a crying 78-year-old dad. And so I forgot what the question was. Oh, process. Yeah. So that was kind of this very interesting process on this book.
Yeah. One of the themes that I really noticed was about the unraveling of so many things in your life. It was far more than just your marriage. And I wanted to read this one little section that I made a note of. It said, like pulling at a stray thread of a poorly made sweater. Once I tugged at the first strand, the whole damn thing started unraveling. For me, it started with the poor. Up close, the tidy explanations of poverty, homelessness, and the American dream absolutely stopped working. There was nothing simple about any of it. There were micro levels and macro levels, individual factors inside whole systems. There was no baseline explanation or solution. It was messy. It was disorienting. The threat of poverty was adjacent to several others: refugees, mental illness, wage gaps, addiction. Those began unraveling quicker than I could even assimilate the talking points. Immediately following those threats came the lack of affordable housing, childcare, insurance, transportation. The dead last word I would use to describe any of these issues is simple. My straightforward thesis where doing the right thing equals guaranteed outcomes was falling apart. And then you go on to say, which brought me to two threads that would ultimately undo my life, my career, and my simple way of understanding the world forever. For now, just the first: racism. And you go on to talk about how white supremacy was a concept you had zero exposure to, and that you find that many of the people in your faith world were not open to talking about this. You say, imagine my surprise when I began discussing white supremacy and tons of my Christian followers lost their shit. Lost it. My comment feed was a daily nightmare. I lost 1,000 followers a day, condemning racism through white evangelical women into a rage. It was like I'd been leading a den of lions, and they turned on me once I changed their preferred diet.
So there's that.
So there's that.
Yeah.
That is, the idea that you start pulling at these threads of things that have always upheld your beliefs from the time you were a baby. What do you make of that today? From the vantage point of where you sit, what do you make of how everything unraveled when you started pulling at those threads?
I'd grown up in an environment that was very homogenous. Kansas, as we have reported. And my worldview was this big. And I honestly thought that was the whole world. I didn't know that there was anything else. I grew up sort of on the bottom edge of middle class, very blue collar community, entirely white, middle America. And then our entire world was church-centric. My dad was a pastor, not the regular kind of pastor. He was very rogue, but he was on staff, even though his work was in athletics, but he was on staff, and so he was always, church was the center point of our life. And so that was also all my friends' parents. Literally, that is all I knew. I thought that was kind of how the whole world was. And so, of course, growing up, like all of us do, we just get more expansive. The older I got, and for a while, I nestled myself into that space. And I was very successful there. I know that world. I'm good at that world. That's my native tongue. I know that's my first language. And I knew what my role was as a woman in that space. I knew how far I could go and how far I could not go. I knew my boundaries. I knew how to hit my theological marks while also being a little campy with the edges. I don't know if that makes sense. I knew how to be funny enough, right? Occasionally I'd slip in a damn. Yeah, and everybody would be like, she's so edgy. Do you know? So edgy. So I had this personality that was suited for success there. kind of shiny, kind of funny, had the right look, certainly had the right language, and I wasn't pressing on any of the forms hard enough to make anybody uncomfortable. So when I started experiencing cognitive dissonance, the older I got, and that's a function of several things. Age, wisdom, growth is a good thing, not a bad thing. I hope every one of us is further along today than we were 10 years ago, right? I don't see that as a net negative at all, but it is perceived that way inside a community who values certainty, right? And so as I was meeting new people, my worldview was expanding. I was listening to different teachers and thinkers, and then just being an observational human being in the world. Able to look at things plainly and say, this is not adding up. What I have always been taught, what I've always been handed, this doctrine or this sort of ideology, its effect in the real world is highly problematic. Like, I am seeing injustice. I am seeing pain. I am seeing broken families, broken hearts, broken bodies. This is not fair. This is not equitable. This is not good. There is no good fruit here, if you want to go back to the original language. I do not see good fruit from this tree. And so when I started pulling that, I like to mix metaphors. When I started pulling that thread, I began pressing on some very cherished boundaries inside my evangelical community that I did not exactly know were there, particularly with racism. I had this very naive approach, and I was such a new learner in it, so God help us all. I knew just enough to be an absolute menace. But as I started raising questions in the community, being like, hey, I thought we were all going to get on board together. Like, this is our deal. Like, we're people of justice. Like, this matters to us. This is our thing. Wasn't our thing. It wasn't our thing. Also, gay people were not our thing. And that was the second. That was the second thread that unraveled the whole sweater for me. And so, of course, as you know, and I knew too, this is a very predictable outcome. I'd seen it happen with other people, that when you go outside of certain boundaries, which I did, the very first thing that is going to get revoked is your belonging. And so I forfeited that immediately and was essentially uninvited from that community, I guess forever. And I do want to say this one last thing as I kind of land the plane here. I've said all this broke definitively for me in 2016. So that year had been full of turmoil for me as a public leader. Some of it was around the election, of which I had been very vocal, and that was not going well either. And then right around the election time, 2 weeks before the election, is when I said publicly in an interview that I had reversed whatever theology I'd ever believed or been handed about the LGBTQ community, and that I was affirming.
That was enormous news.
Yeah.
I remember, and we were not even friends at this point, but I remember seeing the headlines and being like, oh.
Yeah.
That it was very big news.
It was, and it was very punitive, and it was very loud, and it was very swift and very final. But I do want to say this. You're welcome. I've said for a few years, like kind of in a glib way, I'm like, that happened, and then I lost my community. And so I kind of had to build another one. I backfilled with people for whom we were a little bit more like-minded, and our ideologies arced together. And I was at a little small brunch in Nashville for this book probably 2 weeks ago. And a woman in the room said, I said something along the lines of what I just said. And she goes, hey, I just want to remind you and challenge you that a lot of us came with you. And I was like, you're right. You're right. I did not zero out my community and start from scratch. A lot of us were asking really similar questions at the same time. I just happened to be out front. And so I want to say, for all of you who were with me before, and you are here in this room today, thank you for staying. Thank you. Thank you for growing with me. Thank you for growing up with me. Thank you for evolving. Thank you for prioritizing curiosity over certainty. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about this community. And so,
I love that.
speaking of the community, let's spend our last few minutes hearing some questions from them.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I love that. Can I ask one more
Yeah, you
question?
sure can.
And then we're going to take some of your questions.
And then we're coming to you, so be ready.
You know, this book obviously has a theme of waking up from a variety of fever dreams, where you realize that, the patriarchy, it doesn't serve women, and it actually also doesn't serve men. Because what are the men? The patriarchy has us Googling, what are the men? Okay, so it's not working. Yeah. So you're waking up in a huge variety of ways. We didn't even have time to get into all of the ways that your relationship with your body changed, and maybe somebody will have a question about that when we get to them. But if somebody is here tonight who feels like, listen, Jen, I'm with you, but I don't know if I am ready to pay the price of admission, what would you say to them?
It's real. It's not free. There is a cost, and I appreciate the candor, because I would never suggest that it is an easy path to decide to kind of peel off blinders, to admit the truth, whatever that is for you, to own it, to face it, to say it out loud, and then even to do whatever that requires of an honest life, because that is highly disruptive. So I understand why a lot of us choose to stay asleep at the wheel, maybe not in every category of our life, but an important one, an important couple sometimes. I understand that. I don't think it's because we're bad people. I don't think it's because we want to be duplicitous or that we're interested in lying to everybody. I think it's just that we know deep down that a reckoning with something that we know it in our gut. It's not right. It's not good. It's over. It's a red flag. Something we know, that feeling that you have in your stomach, and we understand this is going to be too consequential for me to deal with. It's going to require change, which sometimes feels like loss. And so, the first thing I want to say is I have so much compassion. I lived asleep at the wheel in my marriage for the last 3 or 4 years of it. Knowing, my intuition knew so much. My body was clanging the gong. Jen, so much is wrong right now. So much is wrong. I knew, but I didn't want to know, so I decided not to know. Do you know what I mean? But life is gonna life. Whatever is real is real. So whether we reckon with it or not, it's still real. It's still true. Whatever's happening is happening. And so I'm going to have to force you to believe me on this. If that is you on the other side of the truth-telling, where that mountain is in front of you. I promise you, the cost of staying silent, stuck, invisible, is higher than living a truer life. I promise you that it is. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, oh, you don't know what I would have to admit. You do not know what I have to change. I'd have to leave. I'd have to change. I'd have to quit. I'd have to go to AA. I'd have to feel whatever it is, whatever your thing is. That feels too hard. That's not too hard. Too hard is living asleep at the wheel. That's too hard. So
That's right.
You can do it. You can do it. It's so weird because here I sit 5 years later, and my husband having an affair and blowing our family and life up in every conceivable way is the best, worst thing that has ever happened to me. Do you know what I mean? Because there's no more pretense. I don't have any. I've already lost it all. And so I'm not afraid like I used to be. I'm not as controlling as I used to be. I'm not afraid for you to know kind of some things about me anymore. And I am living a wholehearted life right now in a way that I have not. And so I'm just telling you, you have the capacity to face your real life and to do whatever it takes to actually live it.
That's so good. That's so good.
All right, you guys, I told you it was a good one. Our dumb bits. We were really cracking ourselves up. I loved that night. That is a really good memory for me when I kind of look back on the Awake Book Tour, which was such a blitz. And just a handful of moments really stood out for me. And that night was one of them. So if you are in a season where things are unraveling and you are asking questions that you didn't think that you would ask, you didn't expect to ask, if you are realizing that staying in a slumber is actually costing you more than waking up would, then I hope that this conversation reminded you you're certainly not alone. Oh my gosh. And also, courage doesn't always look loud or dramatic. Sometimes it just looks like telling the truth. Sometimes it looks like staying or leaving. And usually it just looks like doing the next honest, good, right thing. I'm deeply grateful for Sharon, really, for her friendship, but also for her clarity and steadiness. I really, really respect her commitment to truth with kindness. Boy, that feels like a hard thing to find these days. And you guys, I'm grateful for you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for staying curious and being committed to growth, and also for choosing honesty over fear. It's just a community I'm so proud of, and I feel so grateful to be a part of. If this episode resonated with you, consider sharing it with someone you love. It's a super easy way to share. Just click and send a friend, a sister, anyone who might be finding their footing again. Thanks for listening, you guys. Take good care of yourselves. And wherever you are on the road, remember that you are allowed to live awake. Thanks for joining us today. See you next week.